And I'm back. So, James, it's Reamer, I think it is. Again, if I mispronounce the name, sorry. And I know we actually said that I got it right when I pronounced it like two different ways. The last time I brought this up, and he said I got it right the second time. Unfortunately, I can't remember which video that was, and I have to go through all the comments and whatnot. So I'm gonna say Reamer for Raymer for right now. Ask the question: who would win, John Wick or James Bond? Now, I could go over all of their abilities, but I mean, basically, most of the 007, we're going to keep Daniel Craig's for last, but most of the 007s are more spies than actual fighters and assassins. They can handle themselves in a fight, absolutely, but if you actually look at their fighting styles, it's very, I mean, Bond does know judo, he knows several hand-to-hand fighting techniques, he carries his Walther PPK, and he's decent shape for a guy. But that being said, it all depends on what your version of Bond you're going with. Now, John Wick. Well, let's just get into all of John Wick. John Wick, a.k.a. the Boogeyman, a.k.a. Baba Yaga. I love John Wick, man. John Wick I own both John Wicks. You better bet your ass I'm getting the third one when it eventually is made and comes out on DVD. John Wick was a hitman, an assassin for the Russian mob in New York. And he was good at his job. He was among the best. He's widely considered probably one of the most dangerous men in the world in his universe. And he did his impossible task, got out. John Wick then goes on Avengers. Now, among all his other traits, physically he's no stronger than, say, a man his build. He's also no faster. He's pretty agile, though. I mean, Keanu Reeves moves, man. He can move for a man in his 50s. And he doesn't look at it. He does not look 50. I think he's like 55. He does not look that old. He still looks like he did freaking to a 1999. So, yeah, good on him. But, so, I mean, he's a master in pretty much every form of armed combat imaginable. Knife fighting, gun fighting, gun kata. Martial arts, you talk about martial arts, he is skilled. I couldn't even go into how many martial arts he probably does know. It's like a mixed martial arts style. There's a lot of grapples, a lot of kills where you'll choke a guy out, breaking the neck. Knife fighting, he's punching a knife into a guy. But all of this really stems from his strongest trait, as it was put in the first one. John Wick is the man of focus and sheer fucking will. I once saw him walk up to a bar and kill two men with a pencil. A fucking pencil. I love that movie. I'm not quite sure. It's like, I already watched it like about a week ago. Kind of want to watch it again. Damn it. It's like, no. Save it for special occasion. Anyway. So, yeah, that's John Wick's real true. And you want to talk about a man who can take a beating. The man's been shot multiple times, shot through the gut, and kept going. Been stabbed multiple times, kept going. Been beat to hell, kept going. He is, and he's one of the. It's like what happens when an unmovable object meets an unstoppable force. He's kind of the unstoppable force. He needs to meet the immovable object. Now, excuse me again. Is Bond the unstoppable object? Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go Bond by Bond by Bond by Bond. Because each actor does give a slightly different portrayal of Bond. Now, with Sean Connery, again, there's always a scenario where Bond can win. Like if he actually does manage to shoot and mortally wound John Wick. But if it gets into hand-to-hand combat, which it would most likely, this is not Robert Shaw versus Sean Connery in Russia with Love, where they're, kind of like throwing each other around. No, John Wick is fast, precise, and efficient. I'm gonna tell you right now. Sean Connery's Bond gets killed. Roger Moore Bond gets killed hardcore because he was even a more gentleman spy than Sean Connery was. Timothy Dalton's a bit more hard-edged than the other two. I would give him a little bit better of a chance, but not by much. Like, let's be clear. At best, 5% chance because with guns. So 5% for Roger Moore, 5% for Sean Connery. I'll actually give Timothy Dalton a 7% chance. Then you go into Pierce Brosnan, who I think is even not necessarily harder. He had that nice mix of pretty boy, but when he wanted to be actually you saw that intensity. If you saw November Man, you know what I'm talking about. When he had that intensity on his face, I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is hard, kind of badass Bond, and he could definitely handle himself in the fight a little better. But you still tell that he he wasn't flowing. Like you watch John Wick fight, he could just. Here's how Bond usually blocking and striking, do. Well, so just like that. John Wick's not blocking just like that. He's boom boom, get you in to like grab your arm like that and start pulling, yanking, break the arm, and then all the while just going the boom, dude, smash to the side. John Wick will go for any opportunity, any weak spot he can find, and Bond physically, at least up until we get to Daniel Craig, doesn't meet that standard in terms of physical combat. Granted, I think up to this point of the Bonds we've gone over, Pierce Brosnan would stand the best chance, but it's not by much. I would go at best 10%. Now you get into the Daniel Craig Bond, you're getting into a different Bond altogether. Compared to the other Bonds, first off, he's physically the best, most in shape. Also physically the best in a hand-to-hand fight of the Bonds, bar none. He's the most brutal of the Bonds, but he's also, mentally speaking, the most sociopathic, cold, driven Bond. This is a Bond who's fierce and is a fighter. He will break your bones. He will smash your face in. He will drown you in a sink. He will. I don't know what else did he do. One second. He'll throw an axe in your foot and then leave you in the desert to drink oil. So yeah, this Bond comparatively is a far better match for John Wick. So we have to obviously use him as Prime, which would be roughly speaking at the beginning of Skyfall before he got shot, because that was more or less at his prime. He took a gunshot and it was fine, honestly. He got grazed, I believe, and before he actually got shot in Moneypenny. So first off, they'd meet. Is it a contract or whatever? Who knows? They end up meeting. You know what? Maybe they meet at the Continental. Maybe Bond knows about the Continental, and they know about Bond. Bond is technically an assassin, so they go and John Wick and him eventually somehow have a confrontation off grounds, and the fight happens. Now, in a pure physical standpoint, Bond I think is a physically stronger of the two. I think you can tell just by looking at him. He's just more physically a beast. He's better. He's stronger. All of that. But if you're see the reason, and if you watch my Jason Bourne versus Bond review, I make the same argument. Bond's just meaner, colder, and more ruthless in many ways than Bourne is. But that's because he's going up against Bourne, who does still. I mean, they both still have humanity, but Bourne has a bit more humanity to him, I think, in some regards. Wick, both these guys Wick does still have humanity. But you want to talk about if there's a reason for him to actually be fighting Bond, and if he wants Bond dead, Daniel Craig's Bond has his work cut out for him completely. Now that's not to say he can't beat John Wick. I think it's very possible. But but if you're gonna ask me who I think wins, I think that more than likely John Wick's gonna either shoot him, stab him, or just get into some sort of break his neck or some scenario. I think that's just a more likely scenario. I think John Wick is just you want to talk about mean, driven, just cold, target locked character. John Wick is that John Wick is more so than Daniel Craig's James Bond. But the Daniel Craig's Bond stands the best chance of any of the Bonds to beat him, and I think there's a very real argument that Bond could knock him, beat him up enough that he's completely flabbergasted and then shoots him, whatever. So if I were to say the percentage-wise for Daniel Craig's Bond versus John Wick, I'd go about 25-75. I'd go about 1/4 of the time, 1 out of 4 times, Daniel Craig's Bond probably does beat John Wick. But John Wick, I think, beats Bond the majority of the time. Because while they're both assassins, John Wick's just got his history. He's known throughout the entire criminal underworld as just one of the most ruthless killers ever. Whereas Bond is known, definitely he's known. He's cold, but he's a spy. If he can avoid it, theoretically speaking, his true goal isn't fighting, and killing. Whereas John Wick's job is to do that. Technically, Bond's is too, but not his primary job. So yeah, I gotta go 1 out of 4 times for John Wick. 1 out of 4 times, John Wick wins 75% of the time when going up against the Daniel Craig Bond. Against all the other Bonds, again, I think you give Pierce Brosnan's Bond a 10% chance, not a very high chance, admittedly. and I think I give Timothy Dalton about a 7% chance, and Roger Moore. Oh, and Lazenby. We got to remember Lazenby. Oh, you know what? Lazenby's even more of a gentleman, like pretty boy, than even Connery or Moore was. But I'll still give those three 5%. So yeah. That's my thoughts on that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. Ideas of who would win, Star Wars, superhero, magic, what if, anything I do on the channel, put that in the comments below. Let me know. I'll get to it at some point. I'll be back in a little bit with magic, and that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching. See you later.